Invalid objects. I think there's a record store I really like called Valid Object. Or no, it's called Fond Object. Close enough. Good morning, YouTube. Good to see you. Good morning. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. You guys know the drill. Once we get 30 of you, we officially start. And that's 30 over on the Live Me. We're on Live Me and on the YouTube. But don't worry, I'll get to as many chats on both ends as I can. You guys are already tweeting some articles. That's awesome. For any of you, this is your first time. This is the show where we literally get our news on together. You guys tweet me articles at Ron Placone, or you put them in our Reddit, which is just reddit.com/r/getyournewsonwithron. And that's how we build the show. How's Lucy doing? Joe wants to know. Lucy's doing good. She is out in the kitchen right now, hanging out. I suppose helping to monitor the chat. How do I feel about the new Jimmy Dore Show camera angle? I'm cool with it. I mean, it's kind of easier for me because now I'm facing both Jimmy and the camera. Because when you're on a panel, sometimes you want to look at the person, but you also kind of want to look at the camera as well. So now I can, it's all the same angle. I'm looking at both Jimmy and the camera. So I like it. What do you think? Do you like it? Are you okay with it? If people don't like it, I want to know. I mean, it might hurt my feelings a little bit because I think with the new camera angle, you can see more of me than you could before. So in a way, you're saying, Ron, I don't like seeing this much of you. That hurts a little bit, but I get it. I mean, I get it. I can take it. Let me know. I will take the constructive feedback. Just kidding. But do you like it? Yes or no? Let's see here. Oh, boy. You guys are already... We're almost at 30, so the show has almost officially begun. And we'll do a little bit of housekeeping, too, when we start. And, oh, we are past. All right, guys, here we go. Welcome. Get your news on with Ron. We want to know what's going on. We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. We want to know what's going on. We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together. We'll make it all. Get your news on with Ron. We want to know what's going on. Get our news on today. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means you guys tweet me articles at Ron Placone, and we go through them together. And get those tweets a-flowing, you guys. We still got room for plenty. Start tweeting me some articles. That's how this show works. So, guys, I'll say this, too. Feel free to leave some chat recommendations in the Live Me and over on the YouTube. Do you guys have any... Ron is Skynet. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. But cool. If you have any book recommendations, send them my way. I started... you'd be shocked. Well, actually, you probably wouldn't be shocked. You guys probably know just as much as I do, if not more. But it's really cool. Excuse me. It's really cool how much content is available via open source. What's it called? Or no, openculture.org. And also just straight up on YouTube as far as audiobooks go. So, I try to work out as much as I can. By the way, my shirt says neoliberalism sucks. It's a fun shirt. And we're selling it over in it's for sale over in the Jimmy Dore Show merch store on Spreadshirt. And do not worry, Howdy Howdy t-shirts are coming. They will be in my own Spreadshirt store, and the 50 patrons will get it for free. The shirts are coming. Worry not. But anyway, you'd be surprised how much is on open culture and on just YouTube in general. So, you know, I try to exercise when I can. I do a lot of the exercise bike. I listen to stuff when I do it. I listen to music. I listen to podcasts. And I started listening to just straight up audiobooks. I listen to some Richard Wolff work, and I'm The Legal Analyst by Ward Farnsworth. There's a great book of Allen Ginsberg's journals. That'd be interesting. I mean, I've read How, and I've read some other Ginsberg. I've read a couple Ginsberg collections. The legal. All right, so Legal Analyst. What's that about? I'll have to write that down. Legal Analyst, Ward Farnsworth. Ron is selling out to Audible. No, I don't use Audible. I just use like open culture. I use YouTube. I use that's about all I use for the most part, because there's just so much content on there. You can just get straight up audiobooks on YouTube, which I didn't really know that, but you can totally get it. And it's pretty awesome. All right. You guys are sending stuff. So anyway, yeah, if you have any recommendations, please do send them to me. Great overview of the economic analysis of legal procedure. Cool. I will check it out. Yeah. So anyway, if you have any recommendations, tweet them to me at Ron Placone. So that'll be fun. All right. You guys are sending articles. So let's get started. Let me try to find the beginning here. All right, I see something from Marcus. That might be our first one. That might be where we start. Oh, here, this will be. All right, this is interesting. This is from Jesse. All right. And this is from JSTOR. Jesse knows I get excited about JSTOR. Let's give this a Get Your News On With Ron retweet. If you do lobbying, it can be a great framework to work with. I don't do lobbying, but either way, it'd be interesting. Anything from Noam Chomsky, I feel ya. A Song of Ice and Fire novels is my right. I've heard of it. I've heard of it. Uranium 1, please. Kimmy, tweet me something. You know the drill. All right. Let's see here. This is from JSTOR. Why Paul Robeson was labeled a psychopath. The son of a runaway slave, Paul Robeson rose to unprecedented heights. He was an all-American athlete, lawyer, activist, and performer, largely remembered now for his voice, his roles in the movies The Emperor Jones, Showboat, his 1943 performance as Othello. For a time, he was the most famous and respected African-American in the U.S., and probably the world. But after 1949, he was the most vilified American alive, blacklisted, spied on, and threatened by racist vigilante terror. Pulled a George Bush there and didn't pronounce terror right. His passport was stripped from him by the State Department because it was thought that his singing abroad was a danger. A strong voice for labor rights, civil rights, and anti-colonialism was rather successfully contained. What happened? So what did happen? I'm not super familiar with all the history pertaining to this gentleman. So here's what this article says. The Cold War happened. Performance studies scholar Tony Perucci explores how Robeson was portrayed as insane. During the Cold War, the shared critical goal of the federal government and psychoanalytical psychiatry was to eliminate dissent against American political order. Sounds familiar. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because communists, real or imagined, were said to be so good at masking their true selves, only psychoanalysts could break through outer falsehood of the red mask. It followed that they had to be insane to be communists or fellow travelers. Sounds familiar, right? If you question the idea of Russia collusion, you're insane. You're not a patriot. You're a Putin spy. You're a red baiter. You're being hypnotized by propaganda. Twitter's telling you they're looking out for you. They're letting you know whether or not you've been swayed by quote-unquote Russian bots. Although other bots are totally okay. If it's domestic bots, if it's domestic propagandists, they don't care. You can be open about the fact that you're a propaganda account, i.e. correct the record. They don't care. That's domestic. That's fine. Those are patriots. People that go and relentlessly troll anyone that's critical of Hillary Clinton, regardless of their reason, whether it's justified or not. That's fine. But if you, they should close down our military bases and have them patrol. Oh my God, I will see you all in prison. We're on the slope to imprisonment. I guess we'll find out. Robeson was labeled a psychopath. The word came into common use in the post-war era because of his views on the Spanish Civil War. Labor, segregation, colonialism, and other issues were considered, quote, un-American. The immediate cause of his downfall was what he purportedly said at the 1949 Paris Peace Conference, that Black Americans shouldn't fight against the Soviet Union. Sounds familiar. Sounds familiar. Gee, guys, we shouldn't be beating the drums for World War III with Russia. You're a Putin puppet. Robeson was definitely a supporter of the Soviet Union, which had just a few years previously been the U.S.'s ally in World War II. He had been rapturously received in Moscow in 1934, and later he praised Stalin elusively on the dictator's death in 1953. Robeson's passport would not be restored until 1958, thanks to the Supreme Court. He lived in the United States largely out of public eye until his death in 1976. His response to a question by the HUAC congressman in 1956 as to why he didn't live in the USSR if he liked it so much, he says, because my father was a slave and my people died to build this country, and I'm going to stay here and have a part of it just like you. Interesting. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing this, Jesse. And unfortunately, we see a lot of parallels going on today. We got some chats to get to before we move on to our next story. They should close down our military bases and have them patrol our borders. Problem solved. Fair enough. Yeah. Jesse says, reminds me of the Bush administration. No wonder they like him now. We've been in prison since our first breath. Forever voting third party says. Mindhunter. Good portrayal of this era as well as for human nature. Glad you bring that up, Daryl. I am actually watching Mindhunter right now, and I really like it, although it is affecting the way I sleep. I've been watching it like right before I go to bed, and I have dreams that I'm on trial for something. And then I wake up from the nightmare and I can't sleep. But yeah, I will tell you, Mindhunter is a very, very good show on Netflix. I am into it right now. No spoilers because I'm not finished with it, but I'm really enjoying it. And a lot of it was filmed in where I grew up. A lot of it was filmed in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I grew up. In the first episode, when he goes on a date with the girl, I'm not spoiling anything. A guy goes on a date with a girl. That's all I'm like letting in. The movie theater they go to, that was a movie theater I used to go to a lot growing up. You'll see a sign that says Oaks, the Oaks Theater I used to go to. That used to be where I would go to see Rocky Horror Picture Show as a kid. They used to do Rocky Horror there. It's like a kind of quirky indie theater in the area. So yeah, pretty cool. Let's see. So yeah, Mindhunter. If Generalissimo Trump gets his parade, how will anti-war left respond? DC wants to know. Nelson Mandela case about the same. Yep. What's up, Marcus? Throw toast, ? I'm not sure what that means. I think Trump's going to get his parade, and how will the anti-war left respond? I mean, the same way that we always respond. I mean, it's one of those things, you know, and I talked about this yesterday a couple of times, like, why wouldn't we expect Trump to do something like that? The only time Trump has been praised is when he's been a warmonger. That's the only time, you know, the only time the corporate media has praised him is when he dropped bombs on Syria. And in his war rally disguised as State of the Union, where people clap for him every 5 seconds. So, you know, oh, did I throw toast during Rocky Horror? I threw rice before, but never toast, to my knowledge. But like during the wedding scene, I threw rice. But so yeah, I mean, I think it's not surprising. PR is the only thing Trump knows. So of course he's going to be like, well, this is when people like me, so let's just do like a blatant war rally. Let's throw a parade. I like the spotlight. You know, there's nothing to be surprised about here, and this is the type of warmongering nation that we are. I mean, we even make a war rally out of sporting events in the United States. The mixed resistance is only good at resisting one thing, change. Saki, you're absolutely right. All right, this is from Marcus. Israeli police recommend indicting Netanyahu for corruption. Wow, okay. This is a report. This is my first time seeing anything about this. Israeli police chiefs will recommend to the country's attorney general that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu be indicted on corruption charges, according to reports in local media. The Times of Israel reported Wednesday that police chiefs, including the general commissioner of Israel's police force, were in unanimous agreement that Netanyahu should be indicted for allegedly accepting bribes and receiving lavish gifts from wealthy benefactors, including Israeli-born Hollywood producer Ernan Milchan. Any recommendations for an indictment will be sent to Israeli Attorney General. In a Facebook video, Netanyahu acknowledged that the police would likely move to recommend his indictment, but dismissed the allegations against him and predicted Mandelblit would not move to press charges. The state of Israel is a state of law. The law says that the one to determine whether there is evidence against the prime minister is the attorney general, and he consults with the state attorney. The state prosecutor recently said in the Knesset that about half of the police's recommendations end with nothing. So do not be nervous. This is Netanyahu speaking here. I am sure that at the end of the day, the competent legal bodies will come to one conclusion, to the simple truth: there is nothing. Netanyahu's current tenure as Israel's prime minister began in 2009. He previously held the office from 1996 to 99. He was reelected in 2015 with just over 23% of the vote share, with his Likud party winning 30 seats in Israel's parliament. I'm sure I'm butchering a lot of the pronunciation here. The right-leaning Israeli leader is a top ally of President Trump, who last year declared that the U.S. would recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. The move was widely popular with Netanyahu and Israelis, but inflamed tensions with Palestine and Arab countries across the Middle East. Yeah, as well as many other countries that just want to see more diplomacy between those two nations. But the United States thumbed its nose at the rest of the world, and this was a bipartisan thing. Democrats were behind this too. In fact, Chuck Schumer, the only time he ever spoke up against Donald Trump was in regards to this. That's the only time Chuck Schumer ever showed any backbone to Donald Trump, was when he wanted Donald Trump to do something that pretty much the rest of the world disapproved of. So I guess we'll see what happens here. It's still early in the investigation, and this is my first exposure to it. So we'll see. I mean, maybe, if Netanyahu, if this does happen, who knows? Maybe this could eventually lead to some changes in Israel's leadership that is more driven to peace, comparatively speaking, maybe a little more left-leaning. We'll see what happens. All right. Let me get to some super chats here. Mars Pluto, hey Ron, if you're in LA, how do you get in touch with RT? Google has erased their location and number from Maps and Google. Same with Telesur. I am in LA. I have no clue how to get in touch with Telesur. I don't even know if they have an actual studio in LA. As far as RT goes, I really, I do Peter's show, but that's just because I have a direct contact with him. And that's just filmed at a remote studio location, because Peter is based in Moscow. So I don't know the answer to either of those questions. Jessica, stock market took a dive, already down 500 today. Cool. Feel free to send an article if you want to. George, anything by Howard Zinn for books? Thank you. That is an excellent recommendation. Daily Dope Show. My cat saw your cat, then decided he had to get in one of the videos. Lucy's a diva. She spreads it around. Some of his speeches are super fire and brimstone. Don't know who that's in reference to. maybe Netanyahu. All right, let's see. We got some more articles here. Here's something on the whole Uranium One thing. This is from today. An FBI informant testifies Moscow routed millions to Clinton Foundation in Russian uranium dominance strategy. An undercover FBI informant, William Campbell, has given written testimony to congressional investigators after an ironclad gag order was lifted in October. Campbell was a highly valued CIA and FBI asset. He was required by the Russians under threat to launder large sums of money, which allowed the FBI to uncover a massive Russian nuclear money laundering apparatus. He collected over 5,000 documents and briefs over a 6-year period, some of which detail efforts by Moscow to route money to the Clinton Foundation. Campbell claims to have video evidence of bribe money related to the Uranium One deal being stuffed into suitcases. The Obama FBI knew about the bribery scheme, yet the administration still approved the Uranium One deal. An undercover, all right. Interesting. Campbell discovered that Moscow had compromised an American uranium trucking firm, which bribed a Russian nuclear official in exchange for a contract transporting Russian-mined U.S. uranium, including yellowcake uranium, secured in the Uranium One deal. But Russia hates Hillary. Well, here's the deal. Oligarchs do not know any country. And, I mean, that's the theme that we keep talking about on this show. Oligarchs do not know any country. We have oligarchs in America. A lot of them are under leadership. One of them is named Donald Trump. Another one of them is named Hillary Clinton. There's some oligarchs in Russia. There's other oligarchs in England. Some are in Italy. Some are in Germany. Some are in France. Some are in China. Some are in... You get the idea. You get the idea. And yes, some of them are in Russia. And, you know, now because of Russiagate and the intense overamplification of it, we're uncovering all kinds of other stuff that was pretty much just, you know, white-collar corruption 101. But now it's all being exposed because, you know, you can't point your finger at one oligarch corruption and not expect them to try to unmask others. So this is interesting. I'll go ahead and give it a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. And we'll see what comes of that testimony and that investigation. I mean, I think a lot of us at this point are calling for, and I know at least this is speaking for me, I'd love to just see Russiagate end tomorrow because I just feel like there's so many other important issues going on. And I feel like, I mean, you guys hear me talk about this all the time, but again, I feel like corruption goes on in both sides, big time. And it's just, you know, Dem Socialist points out, Carlin was 1,000% correct. Yeah, he was. It's a big club and you're not in it. I'm not in the club. You guys aren't in the club. We ain't in the club. Oligarchs are in the club and they participate in corrupt ways. And, you know, if you're going to amplify Donald Trump, well, then people are going to amplify the other side too. So I would love for it to just all end tomorrow. I would love for everyone to just be like, and I'm not saying it's good that these oligarchs cooperate. I'm not saying it's good that Trump likely laundered money. I'm not saying it's good that this happened with the Clinton Foundation. None of it's good. But, you know, it's going to continue to happen until we have a true progressive revolution in this country. And you know what's going to keep us farthest away from having a true progressive revolution in this country? Blaming another country for our issues and using Russiagate as a scapegoat. When it's just oligarch corruption, that's another symptom of our broken capitalist system. Only in the United States, only in the United States, could we have a political system where the person who gets the most votes might not always win and then blame our elections on another country. Do you really, I mean, how crazy is that just on the surface? Only in the United States could we have that type of exceptionalism, where we have a system that is so brutally undemocratic. And then when it doesn't work out the way the majority of people want, they blame another country for it. How insane is that? Hey, we have a system where the person that gets the most votes might not always win, and in 2016 that happened. Oh, it's Russia's fault. No, it's fucking. Are you insane? How crazy are you? And the true people that run this country, the true plutocratic oligarchs that run this country, they're okay with that. Have you heard the Democrats yelling about the Electoral College? No, you haven't. You haven't. All right. Thank you for sharing that. That was shared by Pasta. We got something coming up from Bree here. Yeah, this is from Bree. We got a bunch of stuff. All right, we'll do the other one that was sent in real quick here. So this is from The Hill. This is a different source. Also from, well, this one's from yesterday, actually. Uranium One informant makes Clinton allegations to Congress. An FBI informant connected to the Uranium One controversy told 3 congressional committees in a written statement that Moscow routed millions of dollars to America with the exception it would be used to benefit Bill Clinton's charitable efforts, while Secretary of State Hillary Clinton quarterbacked a reset in U.S.-Russian relations. All right. So basically the same thing. That one was from Kimmy. I'll go ahead and give this a Get Your News On with Ron retweet as well. Let me get some of your guys' chats. Did I see the Cenk Uygur and Kyle Russia debate? I have not. I would like to watch it. I haven't had a chance to yet. I heard it was good, and I'd be curious to see it. I look forward to seeing it. Anyone who was okay with the status quo is okay with endemic problems. I'm not okay with it. What I'm saying is, I mean, yeah, it's, if anything, this Russian investigation will provide precedent for indictment of HRC and Dems. Yeah, it may very well lead to that. Absolutely. Dem Socialist says TYT has fallen so far in the past year. Let's see. That's BS, says the Angry Cantaloupe. I don't know what that's in reference to. People think it's broken, but I think it's working as designed. It is working by design. It's broken in the sense that, you know, we were sold a lie. And not cover primary fraud in real time. Power just keeps consolidating. Yep. Dems can't tell about the Electoral College. They like it and superdelegates. Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Saki. Republican and Republican light. Yep. So much that I question is if the mechanism still exists to combat it. It's hard to reach across the aisle when you're both sitting together on the same side of it. Absolutely, Sake. North Korea had a military parade just recently, so of course Trump doesn't want to be all done. Kimmy says, I'm having a horrible time watching TYT now with the Russia coverage. Can't speak to that one way or the other because I haven't seen any of it. So I can't speak to something I have not seen. And I've not seen any of TYT's Russia coverage. I know it's there. I just haven't seen it. Sorry, guys. I'm looking for. I lost my place. Oh, cool. We got a couple cool articles. Raven tweeted me Lee Camp's top 5 book recommendations. Thank you for that. Thank you, Raven. I appreciate it. All right, here we go. I found my place. I apologize for the delay. We're on to Bree's article. Going to give you a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. Portland homeless crisis. Sportswear CEO's threat prompts soul searching. Tim Boyle, the CEO of Columbia Sportswear, has threatened to relocate the Portland headquarters of one of his brands, citing safety concerns. Okay, threats by the billionaire CEO of Columbia Sportswear to relocate one of his brand's headquarters out of downtown Portland over homelessness concerns have prompted protests and introspection in the city. Tim Boyle threw down a gauntlet on November 10th in the Oregonian newspaper when he wrote that its Sorrel brand, which produces footwear, was considering moving. Its employees were being threatened and menaced by people near our office or camping in the doorway. I am so concerned about the safety of our employees at the Sorrel headquarters that we are taking the next 90 days to reevaluate our location decision. Boyle's op-ed never used the word homeless, a fact which he pointed out in a second statement and in the media, but many in the city read between the lines. We have daily defecation in the building's atrium. Boyle's talk of feces isn't the only touchy issue. I think Tim Boyle may have a legit complaint. Other people said Boyle has declined an interview request to The Guardian. So where would they go? I'm looking for that here. On November 30th, the mayor tweeted that homelessness is not a crime and added that it's irresponsible to conflate homelessness and crime. In the days leading up to that tweet, however, the mayor's office pushed for the designation of 8 blocks of pedestrian use zones, one of which includes the Columbia Sportswear flagship store, co-located with 40 employees who work at the Sorrel headquarters. The result is that homeless people are forbidden from sitting or sleeping on the sidewalk, historically a highly controversial type of restriction in Portland. Yeah, to a better tax environment, as Scotty pointed out. So, this is my first time hearing about this, and the question that I'll pose to you guys, and I know some of you guys live in Portland, which I do not. I love Portland. I'd be happy to live there. I love LA too. You guys know me. People call me out sometimes. They're like, Ron just loves every place. Ron just every fucking. Because I think a couple of weeks ago on a Jimmy Dore show live stream, like a bunch of Midwestern cities came up, and I had a lot of cool things to say about all of them. Because someone brought up Detroit. I love Detroit, and I'll always defend Detroit because people like to shit on Detroit, which is wrong. Because Detroit's fucking awesome. So I always go to bat for Detroit. Chicago, how can I say anything bad about Chicago? When I was living in my car, I officially lived in Chicago, to be totally honest with you guys. I was in Chicago so much. Also, and then someone brought up Pittsburgh, which is where I'm from. So I had good things to say about all those cities. And someone's like, Ron just loves every place. Every place, Ron just loves it. And, the truth is, I do have a lot of love for different places because I gotten to spend some time. I've been to almost every state, and I've performed in almost every state. I think I haven't been to 5 states, and I haven't performed in 8 states. So there's 3 states that I've been to but not performed in. I performed in Omaha, Scotty, and I actually like Omaha. That candy store is badass. Have I been to Boulder, Sake? Yes, I have. What about Hollywood, Texas? I don't think I've been to Hollywood, Texas, but I performed in Austin, and I've performed in some other small town in Texas right across the border. They did not like me there. Chicago has great people and terrible thieving management. Fair assessment. I love Chicago, though. Come to Tampa. I was at the Tampa Improv a while ago. Did I hear about Black Lives Matter being gunned down in New Orleans? I did hear something about that. Please tweet me something. We can talk about it. Yeah, I've So my question here, when I hear a CEO making threats like this, is it really that significant of a problem with homelessness, or is this code for we want to go to a better tax environment, as somebody on the chat pointed out, or we want to go to, or we want to outsource, or we want to, or we want to just move to a different location where it's better for the bottom line? That's always my question. Always my question, especially if they do have some restrictive zones, as they're pointing out. We already found the solution to homelessness: homes. Yeah. I mean, if you're a billionaire CEO and this is an actual solution, instead of threatening to move your store and put, make everybody that works there have to look for new jobs, why don't you do something about homelessness? Why don't you start a nonprofit to do something about homelessness in your city? Give back to the city some. It's a tax write-off anyway. It's a win-win for you. I mean, why would you not do that? Like, why would you not, then and I'm not trying to say, I mean, first of all, morally, it's a good thing to do. But CEOs usually don't think like that. Capitalism doesn't train people to think like that. So let's speak their language. It makes you look good in the city, so it's good PR. It's a tax write-off anyway. So it's, either you'd write a check to the federal government, which you're a CEO, so I'm sure you don't like doing that. Or you'd actually, do something that helps your company. Why not do something that directly helps your company? I'm speaking your own fucking language, and you still don't get it. I'm speaking CEO talk. This isn't me talking. This is me talking CEO talk to them. It sounds like a no-brainer to me, though, right? I mean, I don't think in their terms, so maybe it's not. But to me, it sounds like a no-brainer. And I'm speaking to a bunch of other lefties, so I'm sure I'm sure you guys are like, yeah, Ron, but I mean, it's not. They don't think like that. Here's a couple chats. Whoever didn't give this a thumbs up, do it. Ron is doing us a great service. Thank you, Daily Dope Show. That's really kind of you. Ron should go electric, add some gain on the amp. Yeah, but then I'd get feedback, Derek. I would get like feedback during the stream. That'd be a big pain in the butt. Nancy Pelosi speaking with straight hours with no clean DACA bill is nothing more than theater. Of course. And you know what I like to say? It's very interesting that we live in a country where people are more concerned about the amount of hours a millionaire stood in heels than they are about the amount of years people in Flint, Michigan have gone without clean water. I'm sorry. I should tweet that. And in fact, I think I will. Derek Robert, look at the YouTube vids of Skid Row. It's hard to believe the conditions in many U.S. cities. It's embarrassing. Yeah, Derek, you're preaching to the choir. I do shows right along Skid Row. Every now and again. I live in Los Angeles, and it is quite something to see. Thanks, Reagan. House the homeless and hire them, George says. I'm with you, George. I am with you 110%. Get a noise gate pedal and a small amp. Gloomy Goblin says, I like the acoustic. Skid Row is an amazing band as well, Dem Socialist points out. That's a good way to look at it. By the way, in other music news, Jimmy Buffett and the Eagles are touring together. Ticket prices start at, holy shit, you've got to be kidding me, and end at your 401k. I tweeted that earlier, so I am double dipping. I'll call myself out before any of you can. All right, and Raven, thank you for sending me Lee Camp's top 5 favorite books. I'll see if I can audio them up. R. Anderson sends this article. Welcome to Hotel Too Expensive. Jesse points out. Sake. Oh yeah, the Eagles are still around, and they're one of the greedier bands out there. I'm sorry, and this is coming from someone who is not the biggest Eagles fan. They have some decent songs, but I'm not. I don't put them on the pedestal. A lot of people do. I think they're pretty overrated, but their tickets have always been ridiculous. Like they've always had like this ridiculous premium ticket price. And who else is kind of guilty of that? And I'm just going to say this so people don't accuse me of a music bias based on what I like to listen to. The Cure. I am a very big Cure fan. I have one of their songs tattooed on my arm. But they really, they have a really high ticket price. Really, really high. Ranked choice voters submit signatures for People's Veto ballot initiative. Maine voters could cast ballots once again on ranked choice voting at the same time they are using the vote counting process. Okay. This is in Augusta. Supporters of ranked choice voting submitted more than 80,000 signatures on Friday to send the issue back to the Maine ballot in June after lawmakers voted to delay and potentially repeal the law. In November 2016, voters approved a ballot initiative that would make Maine the first state in the nation to implement ranked choice voting, but lawmakers passed a law delaying the effective date until December 2021 and then repealing the ranked choice voting process altogether if a constitutional amendment hasn't been passed by then to address legal concerns. Ranked choice voting supporters responded last fall by launching a people's veto campaign to overturn the legislature's decision to delay and repeal the law. Volunteers then collected more than 80,000 signatures during an 88-day period that included some of the coldest weeks in recent history. The campaign needs 61,123 signatures from registered Maine voters to qualify. And the spokeswoman, Crystal Kenny, said town clerks have already certified 72,175 of the roughly 80,000 signatures. Nice! In the meantime, the law to delay and repeal ranked choice voting was effectively suspended once the group delivered the signatures. To my knowledge, this is the first time ever that the people passed a law. The legislators say, we know better, and repealed it, and the people have risen right back up to say, we insist. Yeah, don't let them tell you they know better. Insist on it. This sets up an unprecedented and potentially confusing scenario in June when voters will decide whether to restore ranked choice voting in May, even as they use the ranked choice system in the primary races for governor. So basically, the powers that be are trying to take this from the people. They're trying to find loopholes to take this from the people, and the people in Maine have said, no, we want ranked choice voting. Why do they want ranked choice voting? Well, what ranked choice voting does is it levels the playing field a little bit, and it makes it possible to break up the two-party duopoly. There's a lot of alternative voting methods that would want to that can do that. Ranked choice is the one that's gained the most popularity, and there's a lot of different ones out there. There's a group called Election Science that has really done the legwork on a lot of that. I would recommend that resource for a pretty good crash course in a lot of the alternative voting methods that are on there. But what ranked choice does is you can vote for your first choice, second choice, third choice, etc. So let's say you, just to use a very easy, for instance, let's say that you want to vote in 2016 in the presidential, and you're really unhappy with both of the main choices. You think Donald Trump is terrible, because he is, and you think Hillary Clinton is terrible because she is. And you think, man, the platform that really speaks to me is Jill Stein over in the Green Party. I want to vote for her, but I'm a little nervous that if I do, that's not a vote for Clinton, and that could help Trump get in. I live in a swing state, whatever. Again, just for example's sake. Well, what you can do is you can vote for Jill Stein first, and then you can vote for Hillary Clinton second. And so your vote will deflect to Hillary Clinton if Jill Stein doesn't win your state. That's what ranked choice voting does. It really levels the playing field a lot because it'll get a lot more third-party votes, and people will really be able to vote for the platform they want. So yes, they're tallied differently, Jesse. So the powers that be don't want this. The people that are in power now, they're benefiting from this two-party money party, which is really, we have one party, it's the money party. They're benefiting from the money party system. So they tried to find a loophole, and they did. They're like, oh, there's a constitutional concern here. We need an amendment. So I guess we're going to have to delay this. The people said, no, you ain't doing that. We already used ranked choice voting. We liked it. We're going to continue to use it. So now they have to vote to approve something they already approved and used because the powers that be don't want to give it to them. You see how confusing that is? You see how backwards that is? You see how that's an example of the government working against the people? Because that's exactly what this is. And kudos to Maine for not backing down. Kudos to Maine. Interestingly enough, Maine is one of the states I've never been in or performed in, and I got to change that. Here it's beautiful up there, but I am a Southern California guy through and through. My blood has totally acclimated, and I think there are about 2 months a year where it is safe for me to go to Maine. It is too cold. I think July, August, that's it. Any other place, I'd be too cold. Any other place, I'd be too cold. I wouldn't have voted for HRC on a ranked choice ballot either, Sake says. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It was just for instance, it was just an example. I was just using it as an example. I really have no desire to visit the 2016 election because it's just frustrating at this point. It's just frustrating. Honestly, if I had a ranked choice ballot, I probably would have voted Jill Stein, and then I would have written in Bernie Sanders second. That's probably what I would have done. But yeah, I don't want to rehash that. It's just not. I mean, what are we going to gain from it? We're just going to piss ourselves off. You know what I mean? Like we're just going to make ourselves mad. The one thing that the 2016 election taught us is it really taught us where the divide is. And I used to, in my younger years, I used to think that, I never really felt like, oh, I'm a Democrat. I never felt that way ever in my life. But I used to feel like, oh, well, the Democrats want the same things as I do. They just have a more moderate way of getting there. And I found out that that's not necessarily the case. I found out that a lot of Democrats genuinely don't want single payer. They don't want living wages. They don't want to end fracking. And I didn't know how far they actually were. And 2016 really shined a bigger light on that than we ever had in my lifetime. So anyway, let's see here. This is from DC. Jeff Sessions makes 2 ridiculous claims about the opioid crisis in less than a minute. That might be a new world record. Sometimes you just need to take 2 bufferins or something and go to bed. Wisdom from Jeff Sessions. Speaking at a Heritage Foundation event to commemorate Ronald Reagan's birthday on Tuesday night. That is, wow. Doesn't that sound like a party? Welcome to this Heritage event. We're commemorating Ronald Reagan. This could serve as natural Ambien for anybody that gives a shit about the world around them. Attorney General Jeff Sessions said his plan for solving the opioid crisis is more bufferins and less marijuana. Alluding to the 7% drop in opioid prescriptions last year, Sessions said, "My goal in 2018 is to see a further decline," adding that we think doctors are just prescribing too many. Does that have anything to do with the out-of-control relationship with Big Pharma? I'm sure Jeff Sessions would say absolutely not. Sometimes you just need to take 2 bufferins or something and go to bed, Sessions added. Bufferin is an over-the-counter aspirin brand, and Jeff Sessions digs it. Maybe he has stock in it. I don't know. Sessions went on to say that while the Drug Enforcement Agency may think that a huge percentage of heroin addictions start with prescription, he thinks there's another cause. Probably rap music. We think a lot of this is starting with marijuana and other drugs too. Oops, I was wrong. Marijuana is to blame. New federally funded research, however, finds a link between the availability of medical marijuana and fewer opioid deaths. But that's science, and Jeff Sessions isn't a fan of that. A Rand Corporation study published earlier this month showed an approximately 20% decline in opioid overdose deaths associated with the passage of any state medical marijuana law. But Sessions doesn't give a shit, nor does he think about any type of scientific research when he talks, because he's a good old boy. Thank you for sharing that, DC. Let me go ahead and give you a Get Your News On with Ron retweet. Ironic, his previous job at Keebler catered to stoners. Love it. Thank you, Sake. I appreciate it. And thank you for the magic wand, by the way. Very, very much appreciated. All right. So, guys, if you have not sent an article, please refrain from doing so until tomorrow, because we are pretty much almost out of time. We're getting there, and we still got a lot of stuff to get through. I'm not going to get through everybody, but I'll get through as much as I can. Let's see here. This is from George. I'm working on getting to that second hour. I want to get there, but I need to be able to have the time dedicated to it. And we got some. Let me do a few more super chats here. House the homeless and hire them? Absolutely. Derek Robert points out a German labor union just won the fight for a 28-hour work week. I saw that, which is awesome. Mars Pluto said, having been around the Skid Row area for some years, I've come to the conclusion that most of the nonprofits involved in homeless issues are tax write-offs that are not interested in solving the problem. Yeah, that's probably the case. Hey, Ron, big fan of you and Jimmy. Have you heard, this from Carlos, have you heard of Ron Seigelman and how the Republican Party in Alabama flipped votes to win the election with all this talk of Russian election rigging? I've not heard about that, but please do tweet me an article so we can all look into it together. Although we wouldn't be able to get to it today, but tweet me an article. The growing danger of ecosystem collapse and Trump's war on nature. This is from Truth Out. They don't want to keep it in. They got to get the truth out. This is from Curtis Johnson over in Truth Out. In 1992, 1,700 world scientists issued a precedent warning to humanity that human beings and the natural world are on a collision course. They warn that human practices, if not checked, may so alter the living world that it will be unable to sustain life in the manner that we know. The statement argued saving life as we know it meant transforming our species' interaction with nature, lowering greenhouse gas emissions and eliminating fossil fuel use, reducing deforestation, preserving biodiversity. Okay. Lots of religious charities get government money to provide services. That's very true, Kate. Last November, 15,000 scientists, the largest scientific grouping to ever co-sign and support a journal article, issued a second notice warning humanity. They wrote, the authors of the 1992 Declaration feared that humanity was pushing the Earth's ecosystem beyond their capacities to support the web of life. These warnings and the new conclusion that things are getting far worse should shock the collective soul, which, by the way, is a band I enjoy. All right, I know some people, they never quite got on to Collective Soul. I think they wrote some good songs. All right, and by the way, Hints, Allegations, and Things Left Unsaid. That is such a cool fucking name for an album. That is one of the coolest album names that I can think of. That's Collective Soul's first album. It features their hit single Shine. And is their stuff a little dated at this point? Yeah, you know, they didn't stand the test of time, but they wrote some good songs. And Hints, Allegations, and Things Left Unsaid. How cool of an album title is that? Taxing churches could almost pay for free college by itself. Amen, dem socialists. And I do support that. I do think we don't have a real separation of church and state in this country. Those churches should ante up some taxes, especially if they violate laws that are in place to give us the guise of separation of church and state, i.e. the Mormon Church. For what they did for Prop 8, they should be paying taxes. That should be the penalty. You break the laws, you pay taxes. Kate points out they tax churches in France. We should do it here. They also have the best in, that's a good example, Kate, because they also have the best healthcare in the world in France. They also have great maternity leave in France. How will Gloria possibly afford her second jet while giving people the flu, darkness with machine head? All right, so the dangers that scientists warned are now downpouring with increasing force. Last year was the second warmest in history, recorded history. All right, so let's get to the meat of this here. So the ecosystem's fucked, and this article is a very good one, but we can't go through all of it because we're almost out of time. And this is a lot to read. Okay, so let's get to the meat of this, how this involves the contemporary United States. The ecosystem is fucked. That's the summary. Ecosystem, real fucking shitty. World keeps getting warmer, deforestation, et cetera, rising sea levels. Yeah, we're in a ton of deep shit. And yeah, this is called peer-reviewed science. This is peer-reviewed science. So if you're like, well, I don't believe in global warming, you sound like an idiot, all right? You sound like a moron. If anyone that says that sentence, you just discounted yourself from the conversation. I'm sorry. If you say, I don't believe, you don't have the option to believe or not believe in peer-reviewed science. You have the option to deny it. You can either A, deny its existence, or B, deny its validity. You have the option to do that if you want to seem ignorant. But you can't believe or not. That's why I'm glad we at least say climate change denier now. That was the least step in a better direction. Because it's like you're just denying the peer-reviewed science. That you can't believe. You have the option to believe or not believe in something that can't be proven, i.e. a God. If you say, hey, I believe there's something supreme out there, that's my personal belief, I believe in it because of X, Y, Z, that's fine. That's your belief. Okay. Or if you say, you know what, I don't believe there's anything out there, and I take comfort in that belief because blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's your belief. That's a belief. You can't be like, well, I don't believe in climate change. What do you not believe in? You don't believe that the scientists were there? What, you think they're all made up? I think all the scientists in the country are actually holograms. And it's just my hallucination after I've had too many cucumbers. Well, you're insane. You see what I'm getting at? All right, anyway. But B.O.B. says science is a cult. Changing a label can do more harm than good. All right, so let's get to the meat of this article. This is true to a greater or lesser extent in the entire capitalist world, but especially so in Trump's United States. At the very moment of frightening decline of planetary ecosystems and accelerating climate change, Trump and his regime and cohorts have launched a scorched earth campaign against the environment, a war on nature. Trump and his ilk aren't like Nero fiddling his Rome burn. They're stoking the inferno with whole forests. They have purged climate change from government websites while denying its existence. They've chastised scientists for raising the connection of last summer's hurricane to warming oceans. Trump has ordered the Clean Power Plan scrapped, is moving to pull the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Agreement, and has called for drastic cuts to the EPA budget. Okay, this is all true, and this is all valid. But instead of focusing on Trump being mean and Trump, making these political moves, why don't we focus on the part also that Trump is expanding drilling and Democrats aren't pushing back at all, and Obama did something similar. There was no way to vote against fracking. There was no way to vote against drilling. Let's point out the fact that the EPA is a bought organization to begin with that Trump stacked. Let's talk about the fact that the corporate media under or misreports any environmental issues because they are funded largely by oil and gas. Let's talk about the growing infection when it comes to the environment because our government is bought and paid for by anti-environment groups, oil and gas companies and so forth. And that includes the EPA. Why don't you talk about that instead of giving the delusion that the environment was just hunky-dory until Trump got here? Are we even worse off now? Yeah, comparatively speaking. But Obama expanded Arctic drilling as well. When it came to certain pipelines and stuff, did he do the right thing because the public was monitoring him and held him accountable? Yeah. Whereas Trump wouldn't have to have that accountability. Yeah. But Obama still expanded drilling. He still did a lot of anti-environmental moves, behind closed doors and under the radar. Hillary Clinton would have done the same thing. So now Trump's doing it. So that's more significant than they've purged climate change from government websites while denying its existence. We already know that. We all know Trump's a nincompoop when it comes to climate change. What do you expect him to change? And Kay points out he let Dapple play out and did nothing. Yes. Once he didn't have to think about re-election, he did nothing about Dapple. I was referring more to Keystone. He was vocal against Keystone because the public forced him to be. I'm not patting him on the back. I'm just saying that is something that Trump wouldn't have to do in the same scenario. So I'm not, I will acknowledge some small differences. But when it came to Dapple, he did absolutely nothing. Those dings, Kimmy, is Pasta letting me know what's going on in the YouTube chat for a peek under the hood. That's what those dings are. RB points out, I saw Collective Soul live. They're a great band. Phil says 30 scientists are joining together and running for offices in November. This is progress. We must eradicate the Bible's teaching of fear-mongering bullshit and teach science, tax the churches. Amen, Phil. Derek, Amazon won't have to pay any taxes for its new headquarters. That's true, and whatever city gets it is not going to win. So, guys, we are totally out of time. So, yeah, I mean, all this is true. Trump is a terrible... Trump is terrible for the environment. He's absolutely terrible. But it's our entire system that's terrible. And just having a Democrat in the White House... And this article tries to make it out like it's just a one-side thing. You know, like here's more. Trump isn't just the most environmentally unfriendly pro-business president ever. As Noam Chomsky recently put it, there's never been an administration here, or for that matter anywhere, which is committed to openly to trying to undermine prospects for organized human life. Yeah, that's true. And that is terrible. But we got to point out, like, it's our system that allows him to do this. You know, if you have totally unregulated fracking and a lot of fracking and will make it sound prettier as people's options, you're going to get a Trump. You're going to get the most extreme. You're going to get the, you know, when you go right, you're going to get to the point where it's like, well, we don't even acknowledge climate change. So, you know, it's much more than just Trump takes climate change off of the government website. Is that horrible and disgusting? Absolutely. But as Forever Voting Third Party points out, after Obama's first win, the grassroots was shut down. Yeah, pretty much. And then it woke up again because of Bernie Sanders. But, you know, the point is, it's like we have, you know, total irresponsibility when it comes to the environment in our system because we're designed to be that way. So, guys, thank you so much for contributing and for all your articles. We are totally out of time. Kate says, great show, Ron and everybody. Going to watch the Portland show on Patreon. Thanks for mentioning that, Kate. What is Kate going to do? She is going to watch some stand-up that I put over on my Patreon. I just released the full set of my stand-up at our live Jimmy Dore show in Portland in November, which was pretty much my favorite show of the year. I had a lot of fun shows last year, but man, the Portland show was really special. So guys, you can check out all that content too if you join my Patreon. I really want to make this show go 2 hours. I'm really close to be doing it, but I could really use your help, guys. I want to have a monitor behind me so you guys can see the computer. I want to see that with Mike. Yes, Humanist Report was there. Yes. I want to be able to monitor both chats a little bit better, but I need more help to do that. I want to get a better camera. I want to get better lighting, et cetera, et cetera. How can you help me get there? How can you help me return to a 2-hour show, or expand to a 2-hour show, rather? I'm not returning there. Expand to a 2-hour show. Check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Placone. For as low as $1 a month, you get stand-up clips, you get videos, you get an exclusive podcast once a week. You'll get free tickets to any of my shows when I'm in your town. If I'm in your town and I'm playing there, you get to go for free if you're a patron. You can get all that for as low as $1 a month. Please consider it if you are so able. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. Derek says, Ron was good on Crosstalk again. Thank you so much, Derek. I appreciate that very much. Thanks for checking it out. And also a few other things to plug. On February 14th, Maria Estrada is going to be on this show. And you guys know how it goes with guests. You guys get your questions ready. Do some research on Maria. She is running against Anthony Rendon here in California. Who is Anthony Rendon? He's the Democrat that stopped our state from getting single-payer health care. He stopped SB 562 in its tracks because he is a compromised corporatist. And you know what? If California got single-payer, it would really set an example for the rest of the country too. So not only is he hurting California, he's hurting the entire United States. So she's running against him. And we're going to be talking to her on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. And also on February 21st, we're going to be talking to Stephen Jaffe. Who's Stephen Jaffe? He's the guy that's running against Pelosi. So all that is coming up. This is me, Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. We do this every Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Check you guys tomorrow. Maria Estrada. Get your news on with Take it all home. Get your news on with Ron. Just wanna know what's going on. Get my news on today. Thank you guys so much. You make this show possible. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone. That's where you can tweet me articles. RonPlacone.com. Find out when I'm coming to a city near you. We're going to have some more date announcements soon. And Patreon.com/RonPlacone if you are so able. I love you all very much. I will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. In the meantime, stay safe in this crazy world of ours. Peace.